Welcome to the Wander Mode podcast, where we celebrate the fearless spirit of women embracing life's wanderings. Where every story is a spark of inspiration and reminds us that sometimes the most beautiful moments happen when we simply embrace wherever the journey may lead. After 75 episodes, y'all should know by now how much of my life is dedicated to travel because I love it that much. And today I am talking to Vanessa Gordon, who is the CEO and publisher of East End Taste. It's an online publication that really focuses on sustainable and international travel, as well as some local hotspot destinations. And she and I really dive into the weeds, not only of where it is that we like to personally travel, but also how we like to travel and how we end up making the decisions to go where we want to go. I hope that you are immersed in this world of travel today through this conversation, and that if you've ever wanted to take time out of your schedule or prioritize your dollars toward travel, maybe this will give you a little bit of inspiration. Vanessa, we're talking all things travel, and some of my most favorite conversations come out of just this love of the world and spaces and appreciating the world for what it is. Let's start with first just a little bit about who you are and how you found yourself in the industry that you are now in.
Yes, thank you so much, Julie. Thank you so much for having me. My name is Vanessa Gordon. I'm the CEO and publisher of East End Taste. It's a digital, sustainable travel, food, and lifestyle publication, though based in the Hamptons on Long Island. We also have a very strong readership that's internationally based as well. And we focus on coverage in season, so to say, or during the summer season in the Hamptons or Long Island region. And then we take East End Taste abroad during the off season or winter season. I'm also the founder of the annual summer event series, the Hamptons Interactive Brunch, and we do a number of events out here in the Hamptons during the summer season, and we're also expanding to doing events in other like markets in the US and around the world. So how did it all come to be? I actually come from a teaching background. I taught English as a second language for a number of years. I started teaching in London, taught in Connecticut and in New York. And then I had my family, so I didn't continue teaching soon after my daughter was born. The curiosity for travel always existed with me wanting to become perhaps immersed in other languages and cultures and such through teaching ESL. And I love meeting people from all over the world. I think that was really what drew me originally to go to London. And when I was there, I was in my very early 20s, literally go and just get lost, so to say, and just see who I met. And at that time, we didn't have, there was no smartphones, barely looked at the map and just walked and found
Those
places.
those were the good old days.
Yes.
So cool. So you found yourself in London, just kind of wandering, no
Mhm.
map, no cell phones. Would you say that for you, that love of travel has continued, even though there's like this new advent of technology and all these other things that perhaps make travel a little bit more complicated? Or do you still feel like when you think about that person that ended up in London, that is still getting nurtured by the kind of travel that you do today?
Oh, yes, most definitely. I'm still a just go and get lost. It's so funny. People ask me, "Oh, do you like to read guides or do you like to do research in advance?" One thing that I always like to do before I go to a destination is on Google Maps, I take the little figure and put him in or her in the exact
Yeah.
location of where I want to go. And we'll literally walk the roads, especially near where my hotel or my Airbnb is, just get a feel for where what is, what's around. And I find that to be the most helpful. I did that when I first went to Paris. I brought my brother to Paris when he graduated high school. And we did that and knew exactly when we got off the metro stop. Okay, that's that random bakery that I saw with the sign, and then that random Italian restaurant, and that Chinese restaurant, and whatever it was. Because I literally took the little guy and pulled them around all over the place. We always want to be conscious of
Yeah.
our surroundings when we travel, but I do love just naturally exploring, combing through social media to see like what's trending. But I will say this, I don't know how we all keep up with the content constantly being pushed. Where was I last that I was unfamiliar with Curacao? And I didn't know anything, but I didn't do any research beforehand. And I really liked that. It kept me open to learning about different areas and having that curiosity versus I must go to this one particular location that has that really colorful wall that I have to get that one photo.
Yeah.
It's absolutely silly.
It's so interesting that you bring that up because I was just talking with my father-in-law and he was saying that with the advent of social media and people posting pictures in these incredibly beautiful places, that in some ways it really does just become about the destination and not really the journey, right? It's not really about fully appreciating a place. And so I love that you didn't do any research on your most recent trip and you just
Mhm.
went to have that true experience of, wow, this is where I'm at today and this is what I feel like doing.
Most definitely.
Mhm.
With social media, I always remind there has to be a point behind it. Otherwise, there's so much out there. How do you have time
Yeah.
to digest it unless it's something authentic? We really want to be aware going forward is authenticity with our
Mhm.
content because you could tell also right away too if it was forced.
Yeah. Tell me a little bit about how you got into creating this magazine, East End, and expanding on what you just said in terms of your goals for your readership.
So East End Taste is actually a digital publication, website, marketing company, and event production company. So East End Taste encompasses the smaller events that we put on throughout the year, brand partnerships and experiential marketing events that we do out here and in other markets. So the goal is to really gain more of a platform internationally, especially in the UK and now in Portugal. We're picking up in Switzerland now as well, potentially doing something there and showcasing who we are, what we are, what we do with a live in-person event so people get to put a face to a name, face
Mhm.
to a brand.
I'm fascinated because I also taught for 16 years and I left shortly after my daughter was born. So,
Mhm.
was creating a magazine sort of a natural transition for you then from that teaching perspective and creating content for people and understanding how to get information out to people? And also because you taught English and granted it was as a second language,
Mhm.
still that English background seems to have been a really natural fit. Did that play into that at all?
Yes, I was teaching fitness classes and freelance writing all at the same time to subs income. Teaching too, I loved that I was around people all the time, and there was a certain amount of opportunity to freelance. And a lot of the other teachers in the program too were also writers. I was more freelance writing. I had a
Mm,
hold in the industry and how it all worked, essentially. Pitching freelance is quite a daunting task, I'll say in the nicest way. I still freelance now from time to time, but I only do it if I have a very, very particular angle or story and I pitch it to a very, very specific editor who I've known for years. I have a great relationship with. I don't blind pitch anymore. But with that being said, being in the Hamptons, it's terrific in the sense that there's so many great people, honestly, that are out here. People that are very in tuned with the field. They're some of the best in the history. This is where they summer. This is where they
mm.
have their second homes or third home, many of them. And I've gotten to know many of them, and they have a no nonsense approach. And I was open to learning. I was open to advice. I wasn't afraid to admit I had no idea what I was doing. I didn't know what SEO was. I didn't know any web develop. I had no idea. I thought you just start a website and done. I had no clue. But I wasn't afraid to ask questions and I wasn't afraid to be curious and to make mistakes. And I was tremendously hardworking and dedicated. And I truly love what I do. So that's how it all started. And I loved that I had the ability to write to a certain degree what I love and have that platform. And it was my alignment with freelance writing and the connections that I had there with different editors and publishers. What's nice too is there's such a camaraderie out here with all the different publications. Like I'm friendly with all of them.
Love that you brought up that camaraderie with other people who are in the
Yeah.
industry. And granted, yes, you're going to have some competition in this space naturally,
Yeah.
but also I really do believe in the ability to rise together, right? To cross promote and help everyone. And I think sometimes people get so stuck in their heads thinking, well, if I work alongside my competition, it's only going to hurt my business. And maybe to some degree, sure. But at the same time, there are so many people out there. And the right people
Yes,
will come to
absolutely.
you if you have the product that is exactly right for them or that your vibe matches who they are.
That's right.
What would you say from a readership perspective people are looking to really gain from reading the Easton magazine? Are they trying to look for travel tips? Are they trying to look for ways to be more cost conscious in their travel?
They're looking for like destinations that are similar to the Hamptons. And what do I mean by that? Perhaps a seasonal coastal destination. Bowen Island in Vancouver comes to mind right away. Kinsale, Ireland, Cornwall, England. There's so many, the Algarve in Portugal. So many destinations that have a refined essence, but they're also looking to discover hotel properties, areas around the world that it's a luxurious property, but also sustainability is at the forefront. We're presenting hotel properties that have very practical approaches to sustainability. It could be something as simple as recycling unused soap. It could be unique cooking techniques, composting classes and such that they hold. We like to focus on hotel properties or boutique hotel properties in particular that have intimate classes and programs where they take the clients offsite, or for instance, the Douglas Hotel property in Vancouver that we recently covered. They do a lot of hiking excursions nearby. There's a beautiful suspension bridge community that they take people to. We were looking for hotels also that are really in touch with their communities as well, that hire local.
And it sounds like you focus mostly on hotels. Do you ever include something that might be more on an Airbnb or a VRBO that's providing a unique one-off experience, or do you focus solely on bigger hotel groups?
We have covered that in the past, and we've had some advertisers who want to showcase rental properties, mainly in the UK, near Manchester. We've had a few up near York, but no, it's hotel properties for now.
Okay. I am in the short-term rental industry, so I had to ask because
Mhm.
I was curious. We have several properties, and it does tend to be where my husband and I like to stay from the perspective that we travel a lot with our family. It's just nice to have
Mhm.
shared spaces together. So when you travel, then do you do that as part of your research and what you put out there? So you might pick a destination so that you can provide information on that
Mhm.
location, or is it more I went to this spot. This was absolutely amazing. And now I'm going to curate some information to make sure that people are aware of it.
Mainly, we do content. So, for instance, Switzerland, we have a few articles that are performing very well. So, you may do some like day trip articles, guide based articles, excursions. We're doing a lot of heavy ski content coming up soon. But then I'm going back to Italy in April, and we already have a lot of content on Italy. So it's now going back and updating that content and reworking new into the old. For instance, we did a day trip piece from Rome, but then we discovered new destinations. We'll rework that into the old article and then expand on maybe some of the points that were mentioned in that article and do some separate content there.
Yeah, I like that you're also helping people think a little bit outside the box too. I think sometimes
Yeah.
there's destinations that sound really intimidating to people depending on their location in the world, I guess. Like my husband and I just got back from New Zealand, and it's often this location that when I say that out loud, everyone's like, "Oh my gosh, like that's
Oh,
so far
yeah.
away," right? We're in Minnesota. So it is.
Wow.
However, there really is a lot to gain too from thinking about things from a seasonal perspective and locations that may be a lot harder to get to, but at the same time have a lot to offer if you're willing to push through some of those harder travel pieces, that is.
Wow. What was your flight path, may I ask? Did you go through Seattle or LA?
Yeah, Minneapolis to LA and then LA to Auckland. And then we went from Auckland to Christchurch. In total, it was around 21 hours of flight
Oh
time
my God.
from Minnesota. So, yeah, you have to buckle up. But at the same time, what's interesting is from a time change perspective, what is it, 21 hours ahead
Hmm.
of Minneapolis. So, really, even
Wow.
compared to going to Europe, we dealt with
Hmm.
very little time change issues compared to when
Right.
we've gone to like Norway, for example, or we were just in Croatia. And we dealt
Wow.
with harder time change issue there than we did going to New Zealand, even though it was so far away.
Yeah. That's interesting.
The time change piece, I think, is always the hardest, but really
Mm,
our big thing is you have to just push your clock. You have to do what you have to do to stay up to
yeah.
get yourself on normal time.
Oh, highly recommend. Yeah, I try to tell people push it, just stay up because your body will adjust.
Yes. So
Yes.
from a mom perspective, I'm curious. So you're a mom of 2, and how old are your kids?
Yep. My daughter's going to be 11 soon, and my son is 7.
And do they like traveling with you? Have they always traveled with you? Do you bring them on a select number of trips each year? How do you navigate that?
Sure. I mean, with school, I'm not a fan of taking them out of school. I'm forgiving for maybe a week tops throughout the year. And actually, we don't travel at all during the holidays. We don't travel during Thanksgiving, Christmas. We're home.
Okay.
I just find it to be unnecessarily stressful to travel during the holiday season. So they've been with me to Mexico, the Bahamas, Egypt, Dubai, Aruba, California, a few other destinations. And then my daughter was with me for 6 weeks in England and Ireland about 5 or 6 years ago, and she loved it. What's interesting is I'm actually extraordinarily impressed and surprised in many ways of how good they both are with traveling. They pretty much pack their own luggages. I'll say, okay, pack for this destination, and they love that independence of doing that. And then I'll just double check to make sure that they packed enough socks and their pajamas and toothbrush and all that good stuff. I'm extremely impressed with how good they are. And I travel with both of them alone. So this summer, I'm hoping to bring them to Europe. I feel like travel is truly the most important thing that you could do with your children. I'm trying not to buy them things. They have so many things. But that's one thing that I did not have the luxury of doing when I was a child. I didn't actually start traveling until I was 19.
Yeah, such a different experience for kiddos when they have parents that are obsessed with travel, because I
Mhm.
would say my daughter's very much in the same boat. I mean, we've been traveling with her since she was 3 weeks old, but I agree with you though that there's something I think that happens whether it's in their DNA because they were born to parents that travel or they just grow up that it's kind of
Mhm.
this part of life for them that
Yeah.
they begin to bring it into their own interests and things like that. Like even at 4, I'm seeing my daughter point to a map and saying like, "Let's go here, let's go there." And so we've started putting pins on the map too of where she would like to go. Some destinations that she's pointing out, I'm like, probably not like the safest to be able to go to whatever country, but so we'll avoid that one. But we could go over
Yeah,
here,
that's funny.
like. So let me ask then, what would you say you look for when you are going to travel? What practices are important to you and what types of experiences do you seek out when choosing a trip?
Yeah, so if I'm looking to go away for between 2 and 3 weeks, I'm looking at destinations that perhaps it's easy to get around from place to place. There's plenty of day trip options, flexibility in terms of where to stay. There's more options. Transportation's key. Like there's a solid railway system.
For someone who is trying to just get their feet wet with this whole travel thing, right? Like whether they recently retired or maybe now they're
Mhm,
empty nesters or things like that, what would you say would be your top 3 tips on
mhm.
getting started with travel if that's always been on the radar for someone?
May seem archaic to some right away, but I would actually recommend connecting with a solid travel agent or travel advisor who's well versed in the destination that you want to go to. And feel free to choose different individuals if they have different expertises. So you remember that travel is an investment, and you want to make sure that your money is spent very wisely and that you're working with someone who's very very knowledgeable and also keen on what specifics you're looking for. So if it's like a multi-generational trip, if it's couples travel, whatever it may be, and then it also will help in the long run with making sure that your dollar goes the farthest and being transparent with your budget right away. Because I'll tell you, in all my years of traveling, yes, I could have cut costs here, there, I could have done this if only I had known an expert either there or here in the US that could have helped me. So it's definitely worth that time to work with either a travel advisor or travel agent. And also too, they have a lot of partners. They have a lot of hotel partners and a lot of resources that can help you, even advising whether or not you need insurance. That's probably going to my second tip is like recommending travel insurance, insuring your flight. Just never know.
Yeah.
There are yearly travel insurance packages by getting your travel agent or travel advisor will have the best resources there. And my third too is definitely be open to going to different destinations. Like say if you really want to go to Italy, but you've been there so many times, you may want to check out Slovenia instead, Croatia, Greece. There's so many different places to go to, different parts of Spain. Spain has such a diverse regional landscape. It's quite incredible. Definitely keep your options open and be willing to go a different path potentially.
I love those tips, especially the last one too on being a little more open-minded about where you can go because I think
Yeah.
too, even from a price perspective, sometimes it's like, "Oh, well, it's Italy,"
Yeah.
but there are so many other countries that are nearby that have
Yeah.
a very similar vibe to that where
Definitely.
you may not be spending as much. So if your budget's a little bit tighter, it may not be Italy, but you can go somewhere else and have a very similar experience for less.
Definitely. I was pleasantly surprised with Slovakia. I tell people that's an easy day trip from Vienna. So just
Oh,
to give a
okay.
little taste or explore, go there. It's like 90-minute bus ride or by boat or you go by train, very easy. And then there's beautiful like villages and towns within about a half hour distance, a lot of nature, hiking trails, skiing too. Believe it or not, you can go skiing in Poland too. It's a lot cheaper than going to Switzerland or France. Of course, not as bougie, but it's really, really, great.
Well, and also being off the beaten path can also enhance your experience in a lot of ways too.
Mhm.
You know, some of these more popular countries for people to go to, I mean, they're popular for a
Yeah.
reason, but you're also then with the hordes, right? Whereas if you're picking a more off the beaten path destination, now you're actually enjoying it a little bit more because it's not so crowded. You're not standing in lines. You're not having to pay for really
Mm.
expensive reservations to get into certain things too. And like you said, it's not as bougie, but to me, it's experience over just saying, "Oh, I went to this. Well, I could talk travel with you all day long and hear
Yes,
about the
likewise.
different destinations you've gone to, but where is the best place for people to find you?
Yeah, totally. So I'm very responsive on social media. We're East End Taste on most major social media platforms. My personal Instagram is Vanessa P. Gordon, and the website is eastendtastemagazine.com.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. I'll be sure to link everything in the show notes. And I so appreciate you being on to share a little bit about Easton and also the traveler behind the brand.
Thank you so much, Julie. I appreciate you so much.
Thanks for wandering with me today. If you were inspired by this episode and think it would ignite a spark in a friend, don't hesitate to share. And if you're craving more from the Wander Mode community, hop on over to Instagram at WanderModeCo. Meet you in the next episode, and until then, wander on.